As Japan eyes its goal towards becoming a carbon-neutral society, Japanese companies and climate groups have called on the government to step up the introduction of renewable energy and quickly adopt carbon pricing to tackle global warming. This message was given by Japan Climate Initiative, an alliance of companies, local governments and NGOs, ahead of the meeting of climate ministers of G7 countries in Sapporo in Japan to discuss climate change. The group has suggested that the government implement regulatory reforms to boost renewable energy. They have urged support for the faster development of offshore wind power and mandatory installation of solar power generation in new buildings. The suggestion was made to achieve the goal agreed by G7 last year to decarbonize the power sector by 2035. Japan aims to cut emissions by 46% compared to 2013 levels by boosting renewable energy in its electricity mix to 36 to 38%, double of its 2019 levels. According to Japan Climate Initiative, Japan's G7 allies such as Canada, Germany, United Kingdom and Italy have already reached Japan's 2030 targets, and renewables are expected to account for the majority of electricity supply in the United States and the four nations by 2035. Japan is introducing a carbon pricing scheme this fiscal year in stages, combining emissions trading and a carbon levy to encourage companies to curb pollution. But the levy will be introduced only from around the 2028-29 fiscal year on fossil fuel importers. Japan Climate Initiative says that the country should introduce carbon pricing more effectively so that the efforts of companies towards decarbonization are properly recognized internationally, while also calling for a reduction of dependence on fossil fuels, such as coal-fired power. Let's now shift focus to Africa. Somalia is suffering from the impact of a climate crisis it has done almost nothing to create. That's what United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres has said. He made the statement after visiting a camp in Baidoa in southwest Somalia. The devastating drought in the country, which killed 43,000 people last year, is now threatening to push Somalia into a famine. The disaster has displaced around 1.4 million Somalis, with women and children making up 80% of them. The UN chief has appealed to the international community for more aid.
Urgent humanitarian assistance is needed for some 8.3 million Somalis, and we must now act to prevent a catastrophe.
Adding to the woes of Somalis, rising food prices are leading to more cases of hunger and malnutrition. Vulnerable communities have been pushed to the verge of starvation. People have also been displaced due to fighting between Al-Shabaab and an Al-Qaeda affiliate and government forces. Despite 5 consecutive poor rainy seasons, adequate international aid has not reached the people of Somalia.
2023 humanitarian response plan, which seeks $2.6 billion is just 15% funded. When famine looms, this is totally unacceptable. The international community must step up and dramatically increase the volume of funds to support Somalia in this moment of difficulty.
The crisis could worsen in the coming months, as it is expected that around 6.6 million Somalis may face high levels of acute food insecurity between April and June. Farmers in Kenya are turning to other crops after cotton was banned in many of their traditional export markets. Cod leaves are chewed to release a stimulant. Our next report tells you more.
Cat produce is the economic mainstay in many parts of Kenya, including counties of Isiolo and Tharaka Nithi. Also known as catonine and Mariites, its leaves can be chewed as a stimulant. Once they are harvested from trees, they become money makers for local farmers. But times are changing. In Kenya, cat is classified as a drug by the National Authority for Campaign Against Drug Abuse. Many export markets have now closed after a diplomatic spat between Kenya and Somalia, where it was decided that farmers could no longer sell the crop to Somalia. In 2014, it was classified in the UK as a Class C drug and banned. Risks cited were low attainment, family breakdown, and some users feeling cut off from society. And of course, shifting climate is wreaking havoc when it comes to the harvest.
Watu wako na negative attitude against miraa, lakini si eti miraa ni kitu mbaya. It's just a stimulant like any other, kama coffee, ama majani chai, na maybe hata ukichana miraa, unaweza fanya kazi for a long time without tiring.
Slowly and steadily, local farmers turn to other crops, so sunflowers have come to the rescue.
Wakati niliona kama UK, kama Somali, hivyo walimbani mambo ya miraa, na sikuwa na njia ingine ya kulima. Ile kitu nilifikiria nikaona ni vizuri nipande ni sunflower, na ndio nilipata advantage kwa sunflower. Juu ya kulisha vitu vyangu na kuuza, mapato napata napeleka shule, zingine nanunua chakula ya nyumbani. Juu sikuwa na njia ingine na shamba ni kidogo.
Campaigners say that the UK ban was the beginning of Kenya's cat market problems.
The first onslaught on the crop was Theresa May. Now she was then the health minister, due to pressure from some lobby groups who claimed that the miraa twigs and banana fibers were dirtifying and polluting the UK. Then they put pressure on the government to ban it. So it was not banned because it was a drug. It's because there were other reasons.
Before the 2014 ban, the UK imported up to 2,800 tons of cat a year, mainly from Kenya, Ethiopia and Yemen, according to a report from the UK's Advisory Council on the misuse of drugs. Bureau Report WION, World is One.
Videos of torrential rain in Florida are circulating on social media. National Weather Service is saying that southeastern part of Florida has experienced one in a 1,000-year weather event. Heavy downpour in the Fort Lauderdale region has brought the total rainfall to more than 2 feet in recent days. This has resulted in widespread flooding in the area. Videos circulating on social media show rain pounding on top of cars and people wading through waters. In one such video, one person is seen swimming through waters that flooded a roadway. Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport is shut because of flood-like conditions. Till now, almost 400 inbound and outbound flights have been cancelled. Even the schools are not spared. Heavy rains forced Broward County Public Schools, serving 250 students, to cancel classes on Thursday. In other parts of Florida, namely the Atlantic coast, the area to the north of Miami has witnessed rainfall up to 20 inches over the last several days. The reason for this drastic weather change? Climate experts are saying that the growing intensity of such storms amid bouts of drought is symptomatic of human-driven climate change. A rapidly spreading wildfire due to the summer-like heat wave in New Jersey in the US has caused massive havoc. And weather forecasters say that high temperatures will continue into the weekend, with conditions favorable for more fire horrors to come. The blaze in New Jersey's Manchester charred nearly 3,900 wooded acres and threatened at least 75 structures. Close to 170 buildings were evacuated. The New Jersey Forest Fire Service stated that the fire was 75% contained on Wednesday evening. No injuries have been reported and the cause of the fire remains under investigation. Governor Phil Murphy said that the fire brought about several evacuations and road closures in the area.
This fire exhibited extreme fire behavior. We saw a wall of fire, 200-foot flames, raining fire embers. I don't mean to be dramatic, but this was a severe situation.
Officials say the blaze was intense, raining down embers and producing flames 200 feet high at times. Summer-like temperatures are expected to last through Friday, with more than 25 potential high records falling. The record heat will only make conditions worse during the week as temperatures soar into the mid-80s across New Jersey and other parts of the Northeast along the I-95 corridor. Severe tropical cyclone has hit Australia's northwestern coast with record-breaking wind speed of over 200 kilometers per hour. However, officials have said that the towns and cities appeared to have escaped the fury of the cyclone, which is being called Ilsa, as there are no reports of any casualties so far. But according to some media reports, there are unconfirmed reports of extensive damage at some remote towns, and the officials are expected to carry an aerial survey of any possible damages. Cyclone Ilsa was upgraded to a Category 5 storm, the highest category a storm can be, after making landfall in a small town. According to the Bureau of Meteorology, the cyclone, in a time period of 10 minutes, recorded average wind speed of 218 kilometers per hour. Emergency service officials issued a new series of red alerts. Orders were issued for people to stay indoors. Port Hedland is an iron ore shipping hub, but earlier this week it was forced to close down as the cyclone gathered pace above the Indian Ocean. The region holds significant deposits of iron ore, copper and gold, and happens to be home to some of Australia's largest mining operations. The northwestern coast of Western Australia is the most cyclone-prone region in the country. According to the Bureau of Meteorology, it also has the highest incidence of cyclones in the southern hemisphere. For years, Australian researchers have warned about the amplification of natural calamities such as cyclones, floods and bushfires due to climate change. Farmers in the world's largest nickel-producing country, Indonesia, are struggling due to exploitation by domestic and foreign enterprises to mine the critical component used in electric vehicle batteries. More on this in this report.
Nickel is gripping Indonesia. The Southeast Asian country is the world's largest producer of the critical component used in electric vehicle batteries. China, among others, is hungry for the natural resource, fueling demand. But farmers and locals in southeast Sulawesi say the nickel boom is threatening their land and harming the environment.
This is all because of the mining. To be honest, it's the mine. In the past, when there were no mines, the waters were not like this. It was so clean, we could bathe and fish. Now we can't.
Contaminated soil from nickel mines brought down the hills by rain has turned coastal waters into a red sludge.
Up there are the mines. Down here, the mud is all over the sea. Now where can we go? How can we survive for the economy and children's education? The parents today are already struggling. What can we expect for the next generation, given the current condition of the surrounding environment?
Activists are sounding the alarm, documenting damage to the environment that also affects local livelihoods.
Massive land clearing for nickel mining has lasting negative impacts. There are places where it cannot be reforested. Those who suffer are the people who live near the mines.
If I keep quiet, then I'll be letting our future and our children's futures be destroyed. Because the place where we live would be destroyed, and we would be forced to move out.
Not all local people oppose the projects. Some have secured work thanks to the investments, and others have seen their small businesses' profits rise. A representative from the Nickel Miners Association admits that many miners still fail to apply sustainable practices.
Have we implemented good mining practices and good environmental, social and governance in all our mines in Indonesia? We have to implement these first so we can lure investment from Europe or the US. The main producers of batteries and EV are from Europe and the US, but why haven't they invested? For your information, some investors have repeatedly conducted due diligence in Indonesia.
On Indonesia's Wawoni Island, women farmers are taking up machetes and patrolling their land. Nickel miner PT GKP, owned by one of Indonesia's wealthiest families, has 2 concessions on Wawoni, totaling 1,800 hectares. But islanders said it is trying to expand further, with employees repeatedly approaching them for land talks that they never asked for. Local farmer Royani had hundreds of her family's spice trees cleared by an Indonesian firm in January.
I couldn't believe all the clove trees had been cleared. I was shaking. It was our source of income. We were dreaming about sending my child to college. When we went up to find the trees were all gone, I was devastated. PT
GKP, the Indonesian Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, and the local energy agency in southeast Sulawesi all declined to comment for this story.
What the villagers in Wawoni have been doing, especially the women, is actually the duty of the state, which has neglected its mandate and responsibility in protecting its people in Wawoni.
Drawn by Indonesia's vast natural resources, investors continue to pour in. Government data shows Chinese firms pumped $8.2 billion into the country last year, more than double the 2021 figure. Indonesia's nickel exports totaled $1.28 billion in 2021. Meanwhile, in Wawoni, around a dozen villagers take turns keeping watch over their land.
Clove trees are all we have. I want to send my child to college, but now where can I get the money from? In Masolo, most of the parents who sent their children to universities earn the money from farming. Nickel is only for the miners. We don't get the benefit. We'll suffer losses instead.
And finally, we leave you with the pictures of world's oldest gorilla, who is celebrating its 66th birthday in a Berlin zoo. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.